Hello, welcome to Licensed to Succeed. My name is Olatunji Sobodu. I am your anchor, and Licensed to Succeed, you must be aware, was created to communicate God's will for success and God's way to achieve it. Those are the twin core objectives of Licensed to Succeed, so that you and I know the will of God for success, how God views success, what God considers to be success, and you know also how it should be achieved. And we often emphasize that success is measured not just by the fruit, as it were, that you show, but also by how the fruit was obtained. By how the fruit was obtained. There is a way to achieve success that makes your so called success acceptable to God, that makes God celebrate you as a success indeed, that makes you one that others can look at and learn from on how to succeed in life. And since we kicked off on this channel, we have, gone on a sequence to try and lay the foundation for every other thing that will come to you via this channel. And I began by speaking to you to say that, look, there is no excuse for failure, that no one will have an excuse to fail. No one in reality has an excuse to fail. And you may want to check out that video. It's already in the channel, so you can find out why that is the case. Then I spoke about what is success, because if we are committed to propagate, how to achieve success, then it's important as part of the foundation that we lay for you and I to be on the same page as far as what success, is. Now, so that, you know exactly the perspective from which we speak on this channel, the context, all right, in which we're looking at success, our persuasion as far as the subject of success is concerned. So we're not misinterpreted. So if you're a part of us, we're on the same page, all right? And we provide justification for every position that we put forward. And if we spoke about success, then it makes sense to talk about failure as well. What is failure? That you would also find we have dealt with that previously. And then after that, we looked at the license to succeed. After all, the focus of this channel is, licensed to succeed. Maybe that's part of the reason why we said you have no excuse to fail. All right. But what really is that license? You'll be surprised, if you watch that video, at what the license actually is. So I want to recommend it to you. So I spoke last on, here is your license. This is what your license is. You need that license to be able to succeed, if success is really your goal. Today, we want to speak to the, subject, how to use your license to succeed. How to use your license to succeed. Now, isn't it interesting that, many times people are able to secure a license, all right, to practice in one area or the other. But then, of course, they also abuse that license, or they don't know how to take full advantage of the license. And that's why I want to examine, this subject. How do you use that license? Now, let me back up a bit and remind us that contrary to the thinking of many, all right, your talent, your gift, your skill is not a license to succeed. I used the illustration the last time that possession of talent, all right, will not necessarily make you a success. Will not necessarily make you a success, because it takes more than just possessing talent to be successful. It takes more than being skillful to be successful. All right. It requires that you are a kind of personality who is empowered to succeed, in which case you have a license to succeed. The license is not the talent, the license is your knowledge of how to take advantage of your talent to succeed, is having comprehensive knowledge of how to deploy your skill to achieve the purpose for which, all right, you have acquired it. That's it. So knowledge is far more, all right, comprehensive knowledge, which is not just information, but with understanding. All right. It's the license that you secure to succeed. It is what, gives you the impetus to step out, or at least what should give you the impetus to set out. Now, don't be deceived by the fact that you are talented. All right. You may be talented. And by the way, every one of us, all right, has some grace, some talent, some kind of skill. There's some pot of oil, if you like, that can serve as an instrument for achieving success. However, it doesn't end there. It doesn't end there. We need the knowledge, all right, of how to take advantage of talent. And that is the license. Now, how do you use this knowledge? How do you use this knowledge? How do you use this license so that you can truly be a success? You can return a success. All right. Let me start by sharing with you the the parable of the wise and the foolish builders. The parable of the wise and foolish builders. And Jesus was talking about these fellows, and he made the point about the need to be wise and not foolish. Why is this parable important? Well, what does the parable say? First of all, the parable, tells us that there were two fellows. There was a wise person and there was also a foolish person. And the wise person, had the sayings of the leader and did them, all right? But the foolish one had and did not do them. And you find that in Matthew 7. I was trying to, basically call that up. Let me read it very quickly. Okay. It says, therefore, whoever hears these sayings of mine and does them, I will liken him to a wise man who built his house upon a rock. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat upon that house, and it did not fall, for it was built upon a rock. Okay? And everyone who hears these sayings of mine and does them not shall be likened unto a foolish man which built his house upon the sand. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat upon that house, and it fell. And great was the fall of it. You see, two people, both of them possessed the license. Remember, they both had what they needed to do. They both had how to succeed. All right. They both came to that knowledge, hopefully the same level of understanding. All right. But the difference between the two of them is that one put his license to use, the other failed to do so. All right. The other failed to do so. Both of them did something. After all, both of them built their houses, and both of them had something to show. That's the interesting part at the end of the day. All right. The one who walked, who did not follow what he had learned, who did not follow the terms of his or her license, all right, and apparently had abused the license, also had, something to show. In fact, what he had to show looked like that of the one who followed the process, who used his license very well. And that tells us that we need to be careful who we learn from. But at the end of the day, each of their works, each of their results were tested whether they could stand the test of time. And one fell like a pack of cards because the license was abused, and the other stood firm, all right, withering every storm that came. And the truth is that the storm will come. Your success will be tested. Will it stand the test of time? Will it prove to be true success? And only time reveals that. Because in time, then those challenges will come to test the strength of the foundation of whatever it is you have accomplished. And you don't want to do all of that work. Imagine all the work that, the foolish guy did in putting up the structure. But he did not follow the right process. He came up with what looked like it was okay. A lot of people probably would have celebrated him, rejoiced with him on the accomplishment, mistaken him for his success, misrepresented his success to others until the flood showed up and those challenges came through and they saw the building fall like a pack of cards. You don't want to do that. And that happens a great deal. The many people that you have seen, that you have celebrated, that you thought, they were a success, but you look for them today and they are nowhere to be found. What has happened? They built the so-called success, mistaken and misrepresented to you as success. They built it on the abuse of their license. An abuse of their license. That's not how to use your license. There is a way to use your license, and that is all that knowledge you have gained. That thing that makes you a true sower. All right? Prove it. Follow it. Follow it. We said, yes, you acquire knowledge, you acquire understanding. That is what, that's the license that you have been given to succeed. Now, use it. Use the knowledge. Put your understanding to work. Don't cut corners. Do it the way you have learned it. Be loyal to the things that you were taught about how to succeed. Don't look for how to short circuit the process. Don't look for a shorter way of doing things. Don't look for what is, probably you are told there's a better way of doing things. Be careful that whatever better way purported is in line with what you learned. It's not at variance with what you learned. If you have truly learned, if you have truly been trained on how to succeed, all right, there's a principle that you have been taught, or a set of principles, and there are processes accompanying those principles. You need to commit to following them. All right, you need to commit to following them. If someone is a farmer, like we saw in the parable of the sower, it said a sower went out to sow in Luke 8 and verse 5, beginning from verse 5. What makes the fellow a sower is the license to undertake, all right, the business of sowing, or the business of farming, as we will refer to it, commonly today. That's the license. It presupposes, in fact, it certifies that you have sufficient knowledge of how to farm. Now, imagine you stepping out to farm and refusing to follow the things that you've learned, refusing to stay with the principle, refusing to put seed in the ground and to follow it stage by stage, the same way you have been taught, perhaps the way you have even been, shown in practice. But now you want to do it, and you are looking for some other thing to do, and you are swayed by the sweet talk of some other people who don't even have the kind of knowledge that you have. And you are deceived by certain misrepresentations of people who claim to be doing what you are doing. All right, but they're actually doing something totally different. You may have come across those kinds of people. We have to be careful. You have to be careful. There is a way to use your license. You have to be wise with it. What you have learned about how to succeed in that particular area, put it to use. Put it to use. Don't abuse the license. Don't make a caricature of yourself and your status. Don't look down on the things that you have learned. Like I would hear many times, you hear it right now. People will tell you, they went to the university, had degrees, it was a complete waste of time. What they learned in 1 week, in one short challenge, was far more than what they spent, 4 years to learn. I mean, come on. It's a joke. What's that supposed to mean? And many times the focus is just how to make money. All right. But if all it took was a few days or 1 day to learn, and that is going to give you success, then you have missed it completely. You have missed it. Success entails a process. And as we go along, we would lay it out. All right. It's not superficial. It's not having a few $1,000s today or having a few millions of naira, and that's all you think that it is. No, it's far more than that. It's far more than that. Many of the people who celebrate those things, just give them time. Time has a way of revealing what is credible, authentic, from what is just an imposition or make believe. And unfortunately, you find a lot of that on social media. I'll be speaking to that as well, as we go on. Because in this world of social media, there's a lot that is being communicated, and quite some good portion of it is just simply, hot air. They're simply misrepresentations. And misrepresentations that are also driven by motive, financial more times than not. Okay, so this is the first thing that I want to show you about how to use your license. Some people have the license, they abuse it, and unfortunately it shows. And when they abuse it, they make a caricature of themselves. All right, because imagine how that man whose building, whose house fell when the storms came, how would he feel? First of all, he would know deep down in him that was, that shouldn't come as a surprise. Why? Because he toyed with the foundation. Perhaps the most important aspect of, the process of building. He would know that. If others do not know that, he would know that. And then how does he explain that his building came down and the building of some other person did not come down in the same business, that were both exposed to the same harsh conditions, why did your own building come down? And that will bring shame and ridicule. That will bring shame and ridicule. So if you don't want that, and I believe you don't, then be disciplined enough to follow what you have learned, to use your license as it should be used. Rise above the temptation to do something different because you are looking at somebody else's building who has not built on the rock, a building that will soon collapse when the rough weather shows up. A big lesson in here in terms of comparing ourselves with what others are doing. All right? Because some people have what you may be tempted to interpret as results, which are not true results, because they are obtained by an abuse of their license. Okay? So let's look at something else that I want to draw your attention to. And this time, I'm going to tell you how your license is supposed to benefit you so that you don't misuse it. Your license, as we've said, is a body of knowledge with understanding about how to succeed in your area. Okay? If that is the case, then let me read to you something that can help us, here. And, that's the fact that what your license, that knowledge and understanding was given to make you wise. I will read to you from 2 Timothy 3, and let me do so very quickly, beginning from verse 15, so that we can be on the same page on this particular matter. We can be on the same page. Just a minute. Let me get. All right. So it says from verse 15, it said, and that from. Okay, let me read from verse 14. I think it's even better from verse 14. Hear what verse 14 says. This was the word of a leader, a counselor, one who had seen it, one who had a lot of experience, one who was by every means, a success in his chosen area. His name Paul, all right? And, Paul was writing to Timothy, who was a young person that he was bringing up, that he had trained and all of that. And maybe you are, one of the youth that listens to this channel, and please recommend it to others, where you can hear the truth about success, all right? And this was the relationship between Paul and Timothy. And he said to Timothy, 2 Timothy 3, I'm beginning from verse 14. He said, but you must continue in the things which you have learned. Did you hear that? But you must continue in the things which you have learned and been assured of. The things you have learned and you have been assured of. Your license. Okay? To succeed. He said, knowing from who you have learned them. If you have been truly trained, if you have truly sought for the knowledge and understanding required to succeed in your chosen endeavor, all right, you must continue in them. That's the license. You must operate according to it. Continue in the things which you have learned and you have been assured of, knowing the credibility of your source. If you know that your source is credible, then it is incumbent on you if you want to succeed, to stay committed, to stay committed, to stay loyal, to continue in the things that you have learned. That's the proper use of your license. And the things that you have been assured because you know where you learned from. All right, let's continue. It said, and that from childhood you have known the holy scriptures, which are able to make you wise for salvation through faith, which is in Christ Jesus. What that is saying basically is this. It's saying that, look, you have known, you have acquired the knowledge, including the understanding of how to succeed in this area, of how to conduct your business or your activity in this chosen area. Okay? It said, what you acquired, the knowledge and understanding, they are able to make you wise. What makes you wise? You've heard, you've acquired knowledge and understanding. Now obey them, walk according to them. That is what makes for wisdom. Said, whoever hears these sayings of mine, these teachings, and does them, I will liken him to a wise man. So, here, Paul was telling Timothy that this is the key. There is what you have gained. You know who you have gained it from. These things will make you wise. So commit yourself to doing them and not doing any other thing contrary to it. That is walking in wisdom. Now, he says, in verse 16, he said, and all scripture is given by inspiration of God and is profitable. That is, it will benefit you in these areas. So all the things that you have learned, all the license you have acquired that gives you the boldness, the confidence to embark on this particular initiative, on this particular area of business, they are good. They teach you principles, how to apply the principles that lead to success. So principles lead to success. That's number one. They are profitable. He said, this knowledge you acquired, knowing whom you acquired them from, that the person is credible, all right, it will benefit you if you will apply the principles. Take note of the principles and apply the principles. He said they are also beneficial for reproof. That is, take note of the principles and make sure that you don't misbehave or you don't deliberately do the wrong things or walk the wrong path. Let them serve as a way of whipping you back to line. If you ever have the tendency of straying, if you ever face temptation, you will in the pursuit of success. There will be challenges that will come your way. You will be tempted to cut corners. It is going to happen. There are things that will show up. They will try your resolve. Not only your resolve, they will try your commitment to stay on course with what you learned. All right. You will find, situations where you are tempted to do something differently. Said, don't, because of the things that you have learned. Let those things serve as an instrument for keeping you on course, as an instrument of discipline, if you like. So what you've learned, the license that you acquired, is good to keep you on the path of principle, because what you have learned contains principles of how to succeed. What you have learned contains provisions that will help you not to derail on your journey, no matter the trial, the challenge, or the temptation that comes. What you have learned, and this is the third element, is good for correction. And why is that, important? It's important because in implementing, in the use of your license, all right, there are things you will do that may not be, done as well as the principle you learned demanded. Because it's one thing to learn, it's another thing, the reality of implementing what you've learned. All right. It's one thing to be told that if you plant the seed in the ground, and you put water in it, and then everything just happens. Okay. Well, yes, it's true. But you will now know that everything happens, but there are some other things that may happen along with it. And it's only when you practice that you will experience those things. All right. When you experience those things, what you have learned is what will help you to effect correction. To effect correction. That's what will help you. So what you have learned is there to correct you, to correct your practices, to correct your steps, wherever it is that you inadvertently went wrong. It is still the knowledge, the training, that license that will correct you. Recognize that license, that knowledge and understanding that you acquired, that thing that served as the basis, on which you set out on this path, it has embedded in it the ability to correct you. And then finally, there are instructions in it. It says, it's profitable for doctrine or for principles, for reproof, for correction, and for instruction in righteousness. Instruction in righteousness means instruction on how to do things right. You see, that cutting corners in the pursuit of success, it is forbidden, is a taboo. If you have truly learned from someone who is credible, you will have learned that you must never entertain or fall into the trap to cut corners. And what does cutting corners mean? It simply means doing something different from what you were taught, from what you learned about how to succeed in that area. So you need to check yourself. Now, if you are constantly, all right, remembering, paying attention to the things you learn, the terms and conditions of your license, if you like, then it will help you a great deal, because you will not fall into this trap to do things that you can't defend, to do things that people cannot celebrate, about your success. And that's very important. And let me conclude by in verse 17, he says, all of these things, all that you have learned, their purpose. It is that you, the man of God, may be complete, thoroughly equipped for every good work. That is in that area. Your license confirms that you are complete. You are thoroughly equipped to succeed in that area. You are thoroughly equipped to succeed in that area. So your equipment in effect entails the principles that you are expected to operate by, the provisions that will keep you disciplined in your pursuit, the provisions that will serve to correct you wherever you have done things that are not spot on, or you haven't done things, invariably that are not in line with what you learned. And then they would instruct you on how to stay on the right path at all times and to shun, all right, any behavior that you cannot, or any action that you cannot defend. That is to pursue success in righteousness. You see the relevance also of the how to accomplish success showing up here. It's very important. How? The license is an indication that you are complete. You are thoroughly equipped. You are ready to succeed, to excel in that particular area of your training. Okay? Now, use it well. Staying focused and loyal to the things that you have learned. That's how to use your license. That's how to use your license. That's how to use your license. It takes humility. It takes you being a person of integrity. It takes you walking in discipline. It takes you committed to the terms and conditions of the license. It takes you putting to practice as best as you can, as precisely as you can, the things that you have learned. And by the way, it takes you always, refreshing your memory so that your understanding is continually, deepened about the terms of your license. Because you can forget some of the terms. The things you learned, you can forget them. All right, but you mustn't forget them. Through practice, it helps you to remember. But at the same time, as you are practicing, you are refreshing your memory. Okay? You are refreshing your memory and you are improving yourself. You are improving your training. That's how to use your license, because you must prove that you are worthy of the license that you have acquired. You must prove that your license is valuable. And in order for you to do that, you must return a success in that area of endeavor. So that's it today on how to use your license to succeed. That's it today on how to use your license to succeed. You have seen that if you truly learn from somebody, you should continue in the things you have learned. All right? And the things that you have received a guarantee on, that these things work. If you do go this way, it works. This is how to succeed in this area. And bear in mind that all of those things you learned, they are good to keep you running on the base of principle. They are good, all right, to correct you if ever you veer off. They are good as sources of discipline, internal personal discipline. And everyone requires that. They are good as sources of instruction on how to do things properly and not, and how to prevent cutting corners. The Bible calls it instruction in righteousness. That's it for today. And the journey continues. All right. Next week, on Tuesday, it is at 10 o'clock. And I'll come to you again. It's licensed to succeed. Subscribe to the channel. So every time we broadcast, you are able to join me and also share this with others. In this day and age, we need to get back, all right, to the basics, to the true meaning of success, all right? The benefits of succeeding according to God's will and through God's ways cannot be bought by money. All right. Fulfillment is one of the core blessings that you get. And I believe it is worth it. And the earlier you know that from your youth, like Timothy, the better. He said, from your youth, you have known the scriptures. This is the time to invest in acquiring the knowledge, the understanding, the license, as it were, to succeed. Your youth, your youth. This is the time. Jesus went about his Father's business. It was about acquiring knowledge while he was still very young. In fact, so much more that his parents were looking for him. He went about his Father's business. He was found learning. He went after trying to secure the license to be able to go out and accomplish his mandate. He didn't just rely on the fact that he was Son of God. He didn't just rely on the fact that, had a special calling or talent or endowment. He still, all right, took the time, invested in acquiring knowledge relevant to the mandate that he was given. And that's what the pursuit of success entails. All right. And that's what we are guided by. That's what we bring to you. That's what we share with you. And we look forward to hearing your own story about how these proven approaches have worked for you, are working for you. Thank you for joining me once again. God bless you. And see you again next week. Bye-bye.